Dave Rubin blocked you from Twitter. Now, this was something that you did send me a video to make a video on. I thought it made a pretty funny video. So
Yeah,
what is it like,
I was heartbroken.
Yeah, what
I
is
was
it like?
heartbroken
You know what I mean? What is it like to just be ostracized and just banned from the marketplace of ideas?
from the marketplace of ideas. Yeah, I honestly, yeah, it's pretty upsetting. I mean, I saw Kyle and Tim Pool, and as ridiculous as Tim Pool is, you got to give the guy credit in that I have told that man to wash his smelly ass hat at least a few times, which is way more disrespectful than I've ever been to Dave Rubin. Ever been to Dave Rubin. And Tim Pool has not blocked me,
Right,
even though I'm a blue check mark and he's definitely seen those tweets.
right.
And I have directly told that man his hat fucking smells like ass and he needs to wash it. And dude probably fucks with that hat on. I'm not joking. And he has not blocked me. He has taken that like a man.
Hold on, wait. I have a
So
question for you. David
yeah.
Packman had a theory that he has 365 beanies. Do you think he has 365 beanies, wears one per day? Or do you think he
Yeah.
just has one or somewhere in the middle? Like, where does he
Ti-
fall? He's wearing a
Look,
beanie every day.
given Tim's current level of YouTube fame,
He can afford it.
he's more likely to be like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday beanie kind of guy, and then he'll take it he'll go beanie free on the weekends, unless there's like
Oh,
a protest or an event or something. But he's most likely got the work week beanies laid out on the bed.
but they all look
Uh,
the same, though.
yeah, they're all the
Oh, so
same
they're all
beanie.
the same
They're all
beanie.
the same
Oh,
beanie.
okay.
That's his style. It's his aesthetic. But still, give it to Tim Pool. He has not blocked me, even though I've been very rude to Tim Pool. But Dave Rubin, I saw that exchange off of something David had said between Kyle and Tim, and I was blocked from what they were initially responding to, and I was like, "Fuck! Why am I on the outside of the marketplace of ideas right now?"
The worst day
Fuck.
of your life.
So it sucks. I wish I was in the marketplace right now. I wish I could continue to participate in the marketplace and everything like that. And again, to be kicked out of the marketplace, I didn't even do anything as rude as like I had done to Tim Pool. I hadn't even told a lie. All I did was just say, hey guys, look, I think Dave Rubin knows what he's talking about here in terms of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about because Dave has a long history of not knowing what the fuck he's talking about. So,
That's a pretty,
take it from
like,
the
deep
guy.
meme, too.
Take it from the guy. Take it from the guy who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And here's an example of him not knowing what he's talking about with Joe Rogan and building codes and shit. So, um,
I mean, let's
you
just
know,
take a
uh,
second to think about how crazy he's blocked you. You've got like
yeah,
over 500K Twitter followers. You're a verified user. You've got like you have the most clout I know of literally anyone online, and he blocked you. Like that's
yeah.
pretty bold of him to do.
Yeah, I think he was just afraid. I think Dave is afraid of some certain ideas. And to be completely honest, I think the intellectual dark web, I think it's I don't know. I'm somebody who works in the music world. I am very heavily exposed to branding and marketing campaigns behind artists and albums quite often. Um, but I think the intellectual dark web, it's kind of a bit of mislabeling. It's kind of a bit of misbranding because I've looked into it. They're actually on the same web as the rest of us, not actually on the dark side of the web. It's the same web all of us are on. It's actually more akin to like you go to school and there's like the jock table and the prep table and da 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 da, and then the intellectual dark web. That's more like the hot topic goth table. They're at the same fucking kind of lunch table as the rest of us. It's just a goth table. That's all it is.
So you're not a fan of the intellectual dark web?
I'm just saying it's not very good. It's misleading marketing. I'm not a fan of the marketing.
I see.
I
So
think
they're
it's
not
misleading
really a
marketing.
dark web. They're just as on
Not
Twitter and
really a dark.
everything else, everyone else.
It's the same web as everywhere else.
I see what you're
It's
saying.
it's really an intellectual dark echo chamber, if anything.
So you touched on Tim Pool there. I wanted to ask you your thoughts on Tim Pool as well as that specific exchange you had that I had seen where you had you told him to wash his smelly ass hat. It escapes me what he. Oh, it was the thing where he equated someone saying that there's white privilege, like someone who says there's white privilege is a racist.
Yeah.
And then you told him like,
By acknowledging that white privilege exists,
right,
you're being racist or you're
right.
whatever. Yeah,
So tell
was
me about
essentially.
that exchange you had. I want to just go into.
I mean, it wasn't much of an exchange because Tim never responded, and honestly, I don't think my take there was much different than a lot of other people's. I just wanted to say that, repeat it, and add on top of it that his hat smells. But essentially, yeah, he was arguing that, to break it down into even easier terms, to point out that racism exists and that there is a hierarchy of the racists controlling systematically the lives and what does and doesn't happen via a legal structure to those who are being maligned under racism. To point out that that hierarchy exists means that you're being racist, which is absolutely preposterous. Yeah, and that's essentially what Tim's argument was, and it was just a silly argument.
How does he live with himself making such like insanely ridiculous takes? Like, how do you do that as a person? Especially because he claims to be left wing, which is hilarious to me. But like, how do you do that?
I don't know. I think for Tim, at the end of the day, he just sees himself as just taking advantage of people and making money off of it. I'm not going to come out here and say that. I'm not going to come out here and say that right wingers across the board are stupid. I think the type of right winger that follows and watches Tim Pool or follows and watches Dave Rubin is stupid, specifically. And the reason why is because they have already entered into that fray based on the belief of a very obvious lie. And the very obvious lie is I'm on the left. And because I'm on the left, every ridiculous critique I have of the left has more validity. When, like, clearly you ask these guys what they think about typically left-leaning policies, and they either don't believe in them or they don't know what the fuck they are. And, to me, that says that you're not really on the left, or maybe you're perceiving yourself as being on the left because you believe in some left-leaning social issues, like, hey, maybe people should be allowed to get an abortion if they've gotten raped, or hey, maybe not allowing people to go into bankruptcy over like a health bill, a medical bill is a bad idea, or hey, maybe we should get out of all of these foreign interventions and everything, because those are traditionally left-leaning ideas. Maybe I don't know. You think that you're like this hardcore liberal or something like that. To me, the waters have been annoyingly muddied in the internet conversation these days by the right, in that it seems like there are a lot of people like Tim, like Dave, that want to appear as being left wing, and even Sargon to a degree as well, which he totally fucking rocked that. I'm a classical liberal. I'm a classical which is like a term he just literally pulled the fuck out of his ass.
Yeah,
Um,
he
I'm
was
a
following the
classical
Rubin
liberal.
train, is what he was doing.
Yeah. And even Dave Rubin hopped on that. Dave Rubin, if you've watched the both of them, you can see like Dave has sort of viewed every move that Sargon has ever done very carefully and mirrored it to appeal to his audience and people that would most likely fall into his audience. Saying the classical liberal thing, jumping off Patreon the same time that he was having Patreon issues, so that he could ride on that anti-Patreon wave as well.
True.
Dave is very much like he's a dude who's like, he's watching the market. You know what I mean? He's looking at where the stocks are moving. He's watching the trends, and he's like, oh, this person who's very prominent in this scene of thinkers and speakers and so on and so forth is doing this, and they have an audience that I want, so I'm going to copy that right the fuck away. And I'm going to continue saying, oh, I'm a liberal this and I'm a liberal that, even though like all I do is have crazy fucking right wingers on my show like Stefan Molyneux to talk about bullshit like race and IQ.
Right.
So with with absolutely no pushback and
Right.
no research. And
Something interesting Stefan had claimed. He claimed that Dave Rubin cut out the parts where he agreed with him. Do you think that's true?
maybe, possibly, I don't know. I mean, Dave usually says like, I fucking agree with everything.
Right. Yeah.
And even in the parts of the interview where they are talking about that, Dave isn't exactly like calling Molyneux out on anything that he was saying. Like he was pretty much just like nodding his head and just allowing him to just say all this bullshit without calling him out, and was allowing him to move through the usual narrative that a lot of these race realists do in order to push this idea. They sort of like put it out there, but then they get puppy dog eyes and they're like, look, guys, we're just pulling these test results together. It's science, okay? Nobody wants this to be the result. Nobody asked for this to be the result. This is just what it is. It breaks your heart. And, instead of actually critically looking at, okay, well, like, what do these test results mean? When were these tests taken? What were on the tests? And why are we not analyzing any of the social and material conditions that these groups of people came up in that might affect whether or not they do well on these tests? Also, why are we not analyzing the fact that IQ and intelligence, while through these tests we try to put a number on it, they're ultimately an abstract. We know very little and understand very little about what intelligence and how the human mind works. And to accurately quantify something such as intelligence by just putting some fucking questions on a test paper is ridiculous. So again, very little questioning, pushback, or information in that interview. And even if Dave wasn't necessarily coming right out to say, this man is fucking right on everything he says, even if he wasn't coming out directly and saying that, like, he very much did, like, give it kind of an obvious cosign by, like, just, offering nothing in terms of, like, a counterpoint or asking Molyneux to expound upon his points. And I get that there are a lot of internet content fans and internet content creators that lazily get by on this idea. And I was somebody who, was bad with this myself in the past, where, you just sort of let your guests talk and, you give them enough rope and they'll hang themselves and so on and so forth. And that is true to a degree. But I think you should at least ask them questions that forces them in a position where they have to explain their point of view to a degree where it's going to become obvious they either know what they're talking about or they don't. And Dave doesn't even go that far.
Yeah, and I think David said that he would be the first to hold Trump's feet to the fire right after he got elected. But I don't think that turned out to be
Over
the case.
whatever issues, and Dave doesn't do any of that shit.
Yeah, he doesn't do any of it.
Dave doesn't hold any
Would
feet
you
to the
be
fire.
down to go on the Rubin Report if he invited you on? Should we get a Fantano on Rubin Report campaign going?
I asked, not asked, but I was asked by a friend of mine who said that he had connections over there if I'd be interested in going on after I had posted a meme about it. Was actually, I think, maybe the meme that you had posted on Instagram of Dave's face, I think, over Patrick Starr's body. And that character is sort of showing him like the wallet, and he's like, "Are you Dave Rubin?" He's like, "Yeah,
Oh,
the
no.
Dave Rubin that took money from the Koch brothers." Da, 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 yeah. Um, I had posted that meme, and then somebody who I know online said, "Hey, I know people, or I have connections over there. Like, Dave's really great, and da 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 da. It's like, would you want to go on there?" I'm like, "Fuck no, I would not want to go on the fucking Dave Rubin
Oh,
show."
dude, you should totally take the
No,
offer,
I'm
dude.
not
Just go
interested in
and
going on
fucking
I'm
maul him,
not
dude.
interested in going on the fucking Rubin Report, because look, Dave would not have someone on who he knows is going to ask him like these questions. And Dave literally already blocked me. You know what I mean? Like, do you think Dave wants to have me on his show just so I could sit in front of him and say, "Dave, so what about them building codes, bro?" And also, I saw this ridiculous clip of Dave on the Majority Report. I think I don't know when the show was recorded, but I caught the clip yesterday, I think, or early this morning. And Dave was live talking, I think, in front of an audience of his fans, and he clearly exposed that he didn't know what the fuck single payer was. And he's like, I used to talk about how I was a big supporter of single payer. Single payer meaning like where the government has a little bit of influence on the market. It's a light touch. The insurance companies maybe get some subsidies, but they're still allowed to operate in the marketplace. And it's like, no, that's not what single fucking payer is at all, Dave.
Right,
That's not what
right.
single payer is.
Right. So we need you to educate him on his show, man. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
it's not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen. Damn, dude.
You think I should hit up the guy that I know, say, "Hey, get me on that Rubin Report"?
Well, I thought he invited you on, so I was like, "Oh, dude, take that offer, man. You gotta go and maul him, dude, on his own show."
Honestly, it was not an offer. It was through a friend of somebody who might know somebody over there. So
Okay. So
who
it
the hell
wasn't
knows